Put us up already, please! All of this. Hey, what's up you guys? Yes, I'm Kristina from Leafy Luster, and today I'm embarking on a massive mission to pot up all of my cuttings that I took in the past 3 months or more. So you will see some familiar faces if you watch my videos regularly. To make it the most entertaining repot with me that you have ever seen, I thought of 3 additional layers of fun to make it a little bit more special. Let's go. Here are all of my cuttings. It's a lot, but it's actually a really nice opportunity to tie up some loose ends from my previous propagation videos. On today's agenda, we actually have some Philodendron Brandtianum cuttings that I took in this video right here. I also have my 100 neon Pothos propagations or cuttings, some Monstera, Anthurium, some Sigonium aurea, some Epipremnum Cebu blue. I have a lot to pot up today. Entering entertainment level 1, now that you have seen all of these cuttings, I want you to take an educated guess on how many potted up plants in these pots I will have in the end. For plants like the neon pothos or more common plants, I'm usually potting like 3 to 5 plants into one pot. For something like the Philodendron Splendid, I'm just putting 1 in. Go ahead, get your calculators out, pause the video and put the number of pots that you guessed down in the comments. This way we can find out who has got the closest guess and will win eternal glory and honor on the internet. I say it's going to be like 63 pots. Enough talking, let's get to working. I will be using my general arid mix for all of these cuttings since I don't have any succulents to pot up today. Starting with an absolute gem of a plant, I have the Sigonium aurea right here and she's so nicely variegated. I think this is more than enough roots to pot her up. Since I'm going to be doing the exact same thing for a while now, I'm going to spare you the commentary on each plant I'm potting up and how I'm doing it. Number 1 is finished, so let's start the counter. This is also a Sigonium aurea, but this one is pretty much reverted, but I waited so long for some variegated leaves that the roots are pretty big by now. Well, done. I got something to sit on. It's way more comfy. I look a little bit like a child on a very big table, but never mind. Moving on with something fun, we have the Philodendron Brandtianum cuttings. I had some moss, soil and water propagations. What was pretty clear early on is that the soil propagation was the least reliant. I had one cutting that didn't really root or sprout or did anything. What is nice about soil propagations, you save the hassle of transferring from a different medium to soil and the new leaves look pretty nice. All of the moss cuttings did very well. We had a ton of roots growing out of this little pot that I have it in. The new growth also looks amazing, really big and shiny. The water propagation was the fastest to root and sprout new growth. But what is interesting is obviously the water doesn't really have nutrients. The roots don't have anything to cling onto. So the new growth that we got here is pretty small, but very beautiful. Look at this leaf. The sheen and the color of it, I could die. Let's start with the water propagation. And I will just take the whole thing and plop it in. And then here I have the age-old problem of untangling the roots. Honestly, just a pain in the ass. By the way, I got some amazing tips on my last Hoya video where I also propagated in sphagnum and I had a little rant about how terrible it is. I sometimes use perlite to root cuttings in and this works for me very well. Removing the perlite is way easier. You can just leave it on. It's not detrimental to the plant if you have some perlite stuck to it. Some of you also suggested using leca, for example, especially for Hoyas. Some of you just use cocoa coir. It's very soft, it stays moist, you can reuse it as well. Some of you just swear on water propagations, which I feel you because it's just the easiest way and you don't have to remove anything. See, this is awful. I can't get it off. After losing most of the roots, no big deal. They have very delicate roots and it's so easy to rip them off. I probably won't ever propagate in sphagnum moss again, at least not for Brandtianum. These are finished as well. Such a small little Philodendron splendid. Unfortunately, it's still in moss and I need to remove it. It's so cute, look at it. The roots have grown in the shape of the pot. I want to move on to entertainment level 2. I wrote down a few plant facts that I wanted to share with you today. Did you know that 85% of the plant life on Earth is found in the ocean? I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. There's just so much ocean and then you have an insane amount of algae in there. I think half of the oxygen that we as humans need is produced from the algae in the ocean. So that's nice, thanks. I think there's nothing more draining than removing sphagnum from a cutting. It's really triggering me today. These are done. Moving on. Next I want to do the Epipremnum Cebu blue. I've got these in here for quite a while. The roots are looking amazing. There are already some new leaves growing in there. Look at those juicy, juicy roots. I have the mother plant here. This was all grown from one cutting and I propagated and replanted, propagated and replanted. So now I propagate it again. Let's see how many cuttings I even have. I think for those I want to pot up 2 cuttings into one pot. Yeah, I think this will be fine. I don't like the way I need to water this. It also has no drainage. I always mix in the old soil with my new batch of soil. This way I can keep reusing it. I feel like whenever I'm potting up so many cuttings into one pot, I'm really struggling to put them in a way that looks nice. I'm just not good at arranging them in a nice way. Do you see what I mean? This is like not really a nice arrangement, but in the end, at one point, it will look nice again. It will look something like this. Do you want to see something cool? You see this little pot on this little thing? Not trying to flash anyone, but look, it's so cool. That's a drawing of mine and it's printed on a shirt. Cool, right? Next up I have this Scindapsus pictus silvery Ann. You can identify this quite well. Usually the silver is either all over the leaf or concentrated at the tip. The roots on those are quite big as well. Here I have the mother plant. It's not silver on all the leaves, so sometimes it's a little bit less. I think it's a little bit too dark in the spot that it's at right now, but overall a really, really cool plant. Oh my gosh. Scindapsus will have this weird thing where they root and then they just root as one long root without any branches. Just trying to untangle all of this. Well, shit, it's more than I thought. Did you know that there is a orchid out there called ghost orchid? And this orchid doesn't have any leaves whatsoever. But as we know, all plants need to photosynthesize to live. She just uses the chlorophyll of her green roots to photosynthesize all of the energy she needs. What you will see is just a white bloom that is very pretty in my opinion, with no leaves and just a massive root system. Adding 5 more pots to the counter. Okay guys, now I get something very fun to pot up. I propagated my Anthurium clarinarium a while back because I wanted to make multiple plants in one pot so they could bloom and maybe pollinate themselves. I took quite a risk because I just took a top cutting with 3 leaves and stuck it into some moss, but surprisingly it did really well. Anthurium love moss so much. Their roots will start rooting immediately. I already see them coming out of the top. Wow, look at this juicy, thick roots. I just love anthurium roots. They are just so sturdy and thick. I need to take this out of the pot and then try to fit everything in here. We have one thick root. Try to be very careful to not snap them. This cutting with a very thick and healthy root system. At least untangling anthurium roots isn't that hard since they are so big and you can easily remove the moss. So maybe for anthurium I would be okay with using sphagnum. See, this was an absolute breeze to remove and now I'm left with this root system. This can go right here. And now I'll just fill it up. Well, very happy with how this one turned out. Moving on to some more common plants. I have some peace lily and adansonii cuttings in here. Ta-da! The roots on this adansonii are pretty insane already. Did you know that rubisco, that's an enzyme or protein, is the most abundant protein on planet Earth? It can be found in plants, cyanobacteria and algae, and it facilitates the fixation of CO2 in the plant, which it needs to photosynthesize. Wow, that's a hard word. And we can be really happy that they take it out of our air. Moving on to the part that I'm most excited about. I asked you guys on Instagram and the YouTube community tab to send me some questions about plants, myself, whatever you liked. Thank you to everyone who did. I will go through them each one by one and keep potting up stuff. It seems like it's not really getting less. The pots on the floor keep getting more, so. Moving on with the Raphidophora Tetrasperma. Raphidophora Tetrasperma, I have her in here for way too long as well. The roots are out of control. These are already growing new leaves. Starting with a few questions about myself. These are well rooted, very nice. A few people wanted to know how old I am, what do I do for a living, because it's not YouTube. My name is Kristina. I'm 26, going to be 27 this year, which is honestly crazy to me. I still feel like I'm 21.
I'm just a baby.
I really have to think about how old I am whenever someone asks me. I live with my fiance here in Germany, Europe. YouTube is definitely not my job. With this amount of following that I have right now, I cannot afford the luxury to only do this. I have a full-time job as a lab technician in a biology lab in the field of cancer research and vaccine research. So I'm basically like pipetting stuff all day long. I wish I had more time for YouTube, honestly, because during the week I'm working. I can only like edit on the weekdays and then I can only film videos on the weekends. It's like a hobby. I'm not dependent on it, so it's fine. It's fine. This brings me to the next question someone asked, which languages do I speak? I'm actually not even German. I was born in the Czech Republic. I speak German, Czech, a little bit of Polish, English obviously, some French, but since I'm not really using it a lot, it's not the best anymore. A few more plants for the counter. A lot of you asked about when I started to collect plants and how it just came to all of this. Oh, by the way, I'm moving on with the Philodendron micans. Oh yeah. Look at those roots. In 2018, we moved into this flat. This was our first flat that we lived alone without any roommates. I had all of the freedom to decorate and furnish everything myself how I wanted. I bought a few plants just for decorations. I had no idea how to care for them. I had no idea what they really were. I think it was a fern, a yucca, money tree, Philodendron hederaceum, a spider plant, I think. Most of them like died or almost died. So at this time I started Googling causes of like yellowing leaves and why is my plant dying? This is how I found Plant YouTube. You know what happens when you find it? You've probably all been there. You just fall down the rabbit hole. And then I found out that there are rare houseplants and that you could collect them and you could like put them all over the place in your house. And ever since I'm collecting plants. All of these are done. To circle back, I have plants for 4 years now. Yeah, I guess. And I still love it. Which brings us to the next question, if I have any hobbies outside of plants. I do. I'm an avid gamer. I love video games and the PlayStation, and I also play League of Legends mostly. So video games are really time consuming if you let them, mixed with plants that are also very time consuming if you have a lot of them, mixed with video editing and shooting and all of this, which is the most time consuming. I have to squeeze in the video games and the plant care to like be able to do it on a weekly basis. It's quite a bit, but I don't want to like cry. It's fine. I do it for fun. I also like painting with watercolors. I think multiple people asked which plant genus I would buy if I could only buy one. If I had to pick, I would probably choose between Philodendron and Anthurium, I think. But then also Hoya are really cool to collect. That's a really tough question. I don't like it. That's too hard. I think I'm going to start with all of the neon Pothos cuttings because I have a lot of them. I hope I have enough pots. We can just calculate, you know, I had 100 cuttings. I mean, some of them died. And then if I put like 3 or 5 into one pot, I would have at least 20 pots to do. Oh my gosh, like that's a lot. That's too much. A lot of you have asked what is the most annoying thing about plants, which is a very valid question, especially with this many plants. It can get really overwhelming sometimes. It's maybe not the same as with pets, but it's pretty similar because if you leave for 2 weeks or if you don't care for your plants for 2 weeks, you will have dying plants. It really is a lot of responsibility that you're putting on yourself. I don't know, sometimes you're not up for that. On the other hand, it never really gets boring. There's always something to do, something to take care of, some new leaves, pests you need to treat. Oh, pests are probably one of the most annoying things as well. Yeah, I think thrips. Thrips are the most annoying thing. Which also brings us to another question, what I do to get rid of thrips. I don't like neem oil at all, it doesn't work for me. I had predatory mites, I think one was Amblesius cucumeris and the other one I don't remember. Predatory mites were able to like keep the thrips in check. I always like caught it pretty fast. It still was really hard to get rid of them completely, like forever. The only thing that really helped for me was like this chemical spray stuff. I just use this Cario Rose spray. Can buy this on Amazon. I'll link it down below. This is the only thing that really reliably helped to get rid of the thrips. I really think, and this is not a flame to the sellers of plants, it just happens kinda. Most of the times you get thrips because you buy a plant that has little thrips passengers on it. So in terms of plant genuses I dislike or I would never buy, I think never say never. I think there's a plant in every genus that probably speaks to me or that I like. If I had to choose, it might be Alocasias. Yeah, I guess. Tracy asked something very interesting in my opinion. She asked what my thoughts are on moss poles, lazy poles, corkboards, wood planks, all of this kind of stuff. In the beginning of my plant journey, I just had like sticks. Then I learned about moss poles. And I think the only way I can use a moss pole, or I do use a moss pole, is in a greenhouse. I have my little IKEA greenhouse that I built. In there, the moss poles stay moist longer, so they work much better and the plants really like attach to it and grow into it, which is nice. And I think lazy poles are just moss poles. I mean, they are built different, but I don't see a lot of difference in them, if that makes sense. still haven't figured out how to really encourage a plant to grow onto a piece of wood or stick or whatever. If anyone knows why some plants attach really easily and then sometimes they don't, let us know. I really haven't tried a lot else. This is one of my goals for 2022, to really get my plants to climb properly. I have a mycans that is climbing on one of these like wooden beams in our house and it looks so cool. Another goal for 2022, I want to get some sort of greenhouse in here. Other than that, I have YouTube goals. I want to keep growing my channel. I would love to hit, I don't know, what is realistic? I would love to hit 5,000 subscribers at the end of the year. I mean, it took me almost a year to get my first 1,000 subscribers, but then the next 1,000 was way easier, so I don't know. Let's see. Let's say 5,000, okay? Let's just say it and maybe it happens. I'm running out of soil, so I have to refill my working box. Bridget also asked, what are my wishlist plans? And I'm currently trying to write down a wish list. Mainly Hoyas at the moment. So I would like the Hoya caudata, I think. A few more Anthurium. I like the Anthurium metallicum. I really like the Begonia chlorosticta. I just think it looks so cool. Let's move on. I'm talking too much. Moving on with a few Maranta cuttings. I have the Maranta Kerchoviana variegata, the Fascinator one, and oh yeah, there's also a cutting of a Varshevici. I think they're all rooted enough to be potted up. What is my favorite movie? I don't know if I have one. I enjoy watching like series more, I think. We watch a lot of anime. I have a really good film. It's called Your Name. Yes, just watch it if you haven't. Have a good cry and then be scarred for the rest of your life. You're welcome. And if you have seen it, just tell me that you cried like a baby, okay? I love how the new leaves come in with those pink spots and then they get darker over time. It's just so cute. More plants. Okay, next I have a Philodendron melanochrysum cutting. By the way, I really dislike them. Just doesn't grow well for me. And I think it's basically the same issue as with the Philodendron Brandtianum. I can't give it enough humidity to grow well. Plant friend down the street made a really good video about it, why Philodendron melanochrysum is so finicky. So I will keep one and sell like all of my others, I think. And then one glorious day I will have a greenhouse, hopefully, that I can keep it in, and maybe it will be happy in there. We've got a Calathea Varshevici. Oh yeah, those usually have really good roots. Do you see the new growth points too? It's really cool. I only have like 5 small pots left, which isn't great. And I still have all of those adansonii cuttings that I wanted to pot up. Let's just see what we can do. Look at those roots. This is probably the perfect amount of root on a cutting, in my opinion. Michelle asked if I have any prior experience in editing, because my editing is lit. So first of all, thank you, I'm flattered. But I don't. I had to learn everything myself. 1.5 years ago, when I started my Instagram, I haven't edited anything ever in my life, no videos. I started out with the Windows Video Maker, which has very limited basic editing options, and it shows, but I mean, you have to start somewhere, right? From there, I worked my way up to Premiere Pro now. I'm very lucky that I have access to a very good editing software, but the software is nothing without you knowing what you're doing. I had to watch a lot of YouTube videos on how to edit, how to insert music, how to color grade, how to normalize your sound, how to frame a picture, how to everything. I just learned everything step by step, and with every video I feel like I learned at least one new thing. If you look back on my first videos on this channel, like they were mostly talking head videos where I just had one shot for like 20 minutes and it was kind of boring. You see, I could talk about it a lot. It's fun, it's complex, it's a cool hobby kind of, and there's a lot to learn. I'm by no means like perfect. I'm not making cinematic films or anything, so I think for YouTube I have reached a certain threshold that is like good quality. I have one more question from Instagram. It's about my potato, my Stephania erecta. So here she is, she's in a glass dome, and this is the first sprout of the year. You can already see a little leaf forming. And I'm very hopeful that this year she won't be as long as last year, because she was really tall and just one long spaghetti noodle, and she only had a few leaves. It looked really weird. She also has a few more sprouts down here. On this note, I have also acquired a Stephania Kawasaki last year and a Phyllanthus mirabilis, but this one isn't really doing anything. Stephania Kawasaki is already pushing a new leaf as well. I have something else exciting. The Philodendron Pink Princess, White Princess that we propagated last week, is already rooting. Look how nice. I could already pot it up, I guess. Maybe I will. Some of the cuttings aren't rooted yet, but some of them are a little bit quicker. So I potted those up as well. And with this, my guys, I can't believe it, but I am done. I'm done with everything. So I guess it's time to count and see who won the guessing game. Here are all of the cuttings. Okay, are you still confident in your guess? Let's count, okay? 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 6, 12, 13. 20 plus 13 is 33, 45, plus 6, 51, plus 6, 57 pots. What was my guess? 63, right? 6 off, which isn't bad. I think it was a good guess, but I'm pretty sure that someone out there had a better guess than me. Thank you so much for spending the day with me. It was a long day, it was a lot of work, but I'm really glad I did all of it, and now I don't have it at the back of my mind just like screaming at me, "Put us up already, please!" If you're interested in any other propagation videos of mine, you can watch this playlist right here, and I'll see you next time. Until then, enjoy your plants and goodbye!